Case, Rep Stewart from Utah. This is our gang from the Waikiki Prince helping cutting and pasting for today. After we go, then we're gonna take them outside and we're gonna do some work outside. But we got a little rained on this morning, so we have to go at Plan B. But yeah.
So you guys don't have to work down in Waikiki today, then, huh? Yeah. Don't worry about the tourists; they'll be okay.
The hotel's running itself today.
Is this the Aqua of Waikiki?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Huh. So we have the students who come down to. We have a junior ambassador program where they'll come and they'll learn the different trades or learn different areas of the hotel. So we kind of both partner.
And does the Prince have an active? Does the Prince have an active Hawaiian cultural offering to the guests? You know, where this food kind of feeds into that.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at all the artwork that was part of the renovation, everything, that's a whole story basically of the ahupua'a from the fish and everything. If you've been to the hotel, and so that story, our music, our local musicians we bring in, so we incorporated in a number of different ways. And then also bringing in the students from the community into our program as actual, transition into, real life, into getting a job in the industry. So we try to incorporate it in many ways.
Yeah, I feel like for me, one of the things that I shared with them this morning, one of the things that we often hear when we go to do stuff with them at their Prince is they always talk about a sense of place, right? and the importance of place. And I think that's something that we really connect to here, which is why we try to continue to foster that relationship and we send students down and have them come work with us too. So
virtually all of the hotels now have incorporated a historic and a cultural component into what they offer, because number one, they want to, and because they find that the guests want that. Like they want something deeper than just hanging on the beach, and they want to understand Hawaii. They want to understand the history, the culture, and so they want all their folks to understand it too, so they can answer the questions.
And just first superintendent, I think the first picture you'll see is a picture of David Malo. He was a Hawaiian scholar, during his time when he was a superintendent of education, there were over 400 schools in Hawaii at the time that were all Hawaiian language only. I think over time.
What year would that have been about?
1800s, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So missionaries was about 1820, 1893 overthrow, and so about 1820 is missionaries, and interestingly, right, when the missionaries, when the printing press came to Hawaii, there were from the in a span of the few decades that after the arrival of the printing press, there were hundreds of newspapers in the Hawaiian Islands, and Hawaii had a literacy rate higher than most countries in Europe, and definitely in the United States at the time. I think the literacy rate was in the high 90s because of the number of newspapers that were available, and public education was compulsory at the time. I think one of the early laws, it was children from the age of 4 through 15. Needed to be enrolled in school, and it was for, it wasn't exclusively for rich or poor, male or female. It was everyone, right? That was the rule at the time, and so Hawaiian education at the time in the language was very, very strong.
here than I did in Georgia, but I can definitely say that there is a risk and a reward. I honestly couldn't agree more. And it's, in some classes, they're more political than others. You can kind of get a sense for what the professor believes and what the professor doesn't. In other classes, there's less. So for me, I'm a business student. In my business classes, I don't see a lot of politics come out, but in some of the gen eds that I've been taking, I usually see it more. And honestly, for me, I think the really sad thing is that politics is becoming so polarized. Me personally, I'm more left-leaning, which is odd considering I'm from Georgia, but that's the case. And I feel like you don't know, like it's almost like it's not okay to have an opinion that's not either fully right or fully left. If you have an opinion that's not one or the other, it's not okay in today's society. And so sometimes I'll have an opinion where I may not agree with the professor or someone in the class, and I personally usually don't speak out because I don't think it's worth it. And you could never prove, that's the hardest part, is like you guys didn't talk about, you guys have a big microphone, you're expected to make big statements, you're expected to say what you mean. For us, if we say what we mean, it could impact our grades, it could impact our letters of recommendation. I also work for the university, it could impact that, and it's kind of a balancing act. You represent the university even if you don't always want to, and so you have to bear in mind the responsibilities that come with that and decide what's worth speaking out and what's worth not. So I definitely think it's an issue that needs to be looked at, but at the end of the day, I don't know how you can ever prove it. If I said something and my grade suddenly tanked, how could you ever prove that it was me saying something that tanked it? Maybe my performance really defaulted.
Yeah, you do. But I think, and it goes back to a little bit of what Chris was just saying, I feel that if I'm honest with my constituents, even if they disagree with me, they will at least understand why I did it, and they will, I have faith that I'm not going to be ultimately punished by getting kicked out of office. Now, sure, if I have a principle or a position that's way out of touch, like just way off the grid, then I shouldn't be a representative at that point, right? To be honest, I have tough votes. We have tough votes all the time, where we have to judge the merits of a particular issue, where there's consequences either way. There's a policy consequence. You know, maybe you make a decision that actually is not helpful to one group, but you have to make it because it's helpful to another group or to the broader group. You have to make calculations. Of course you consider whether your constituents agree with you or not. That you have to do that. That's part of your job. And you have to consider where you disagree with your constituents, whether you're going to do it anyway. Like where, the classic example, right? What does it mean to represent? Does represent mean I'm just going to do what my constituents want me to do? Or is it going to mean that I exercise my judgment in representing them the best I can? So these equations always are part of the equation, but I've never really felt personally like in a crisis dilemma of facing a choice between legislating results and principle. I just have never felt that. But it's my technique is I do try to listen to the other side, even if I just don't really like them or I don't really agree with them. I try to get away from the mindset of, well, I'm just going to turn them off and try to understand. And sometimes you get lucky and there's a zone of agreement, and there's at least a start there.
So I would say maybe a couple things in conclusion. And one is I agree with what Ed said about listening. If someone feels like someone who disagreed with them actually listened to them, many times that's enough to satisfy all of us. At least I felt like he listened and tried to understand what I was saying. He didn't agree with me, but he gave me the chance to speak. And I use that rule all the time with my constituents. Some of my constituents don't agree with me, but as long as they feel like he listened to me and he tried to understand the way I felt, I've tried to bridge that as a representative, because whatever you and I feel like, there's someone who will disagree with us. The other thing, in speaking more generally, and I don't know if I can express this very well, but the things that I've complicated complimented this community on are actually quite common in Utah as well. Our tone is quite a bit softer than a lot of places. I represent a state that the majority of people are bilingual. The majority of them have lived outside of the United States for a couple of years. And I think bringing that kind of, we're the most welcoming state per capita in the country in bringing refugees into the state and taking care of refugees. And I think part of that kind of centers on this philosophy, and it's not a religious philosophy really. I guess it is actually, and the way I'm expressing it will sound more religious than I really mean it, but we just kind of feel like, hey, at the end of the day, we're all children of the same God. Whatever, you know, you perceive your religious or your spiritual feelings to be, we have that one thing in common. And I really think that perspective helps mitigate and soften some of the disagreements. That you look at someone and know that they have value, that they view the world differently, but they are trying to be thoughtful and they're trying to work their way through life as well. All of us are going to make mistakes as we do, and we will occasionally change our views on things. We will look back and say, you know, I was wrong about this. And if we're willing to do that, then I think we're going to be okay. But if you stop the conversation because someone doesn't agree with you, then everyone is worse off when we do that. And once again, especially in a university environment, it should be the one place where we can really talk about different things as young people try to understand what's important to me, what's important in the world. It's been great to be with you. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you so much. All the students and the teachers and our parents and friends who've joined us, welcome to my Congressional App Challenge Awards ceremony. Really happy to have each of you all here. I've done this since I have been in Congress since 2019. And as you all know already, Congress for some time now has sponsored the Congressional App Challenge. So every member in our districts who participates in the App Challenge does this in his or her district. So we have 435 members of Congress, so that's a lot of app challenges going on out there. But I am very, very happy to be able to do this every single year, and I'm especially happy to do this personally again after a lot of years of COVID. So thanks for coming, first of all. I wanted to, first of all, thank Melissa Kim and Phoenix Tran, who are, there you go. Thank you so much for allowing us to join you here. I hope you enjoy this incredible facility. How many of you have been here before? I mean, have any of you been here before? This is an amazing facility that was actually a state of Hawaii sponsored facility with federal funding. And I came here about 4 or 5 weeks ago just to check it out, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I'm so happy that we had 7 schools participating in my Congressional App Challenge this time around. We had Dreamhouse Eva Beach Public Charter School, and you're building a new building, right? Yeah, right on. I got invited to your groundbreaking or something like that, so I recognize that. Eva Mackay Middle School, you're here, right? Okay, cool. Moanalua High School, any Moanaluas here? All right, we've got Waipahu High School. By the way, here's Nestor Garcia right over there, proud graduate of Waipahu High School. Kamehameha Schools, good to have you here participating. Iolani School, I think we have some Iolani people here, right? No? And Punahou School, so thank you so much. So everybody that participated, congratulations. And I really especially want to thank the teachers who encourage your students to participate in this app challenge. The whole idea here, of course, is to get students interested in apps, interested in computer science, interested in information technology. And my plan in doing this is to get you interested so that you'll try to look for career opportunities in these areas that are going to be so much more important going out into the future than even they are today. And I'm obviously also very interested in you helping our Hawaii as we go down the road in these important areas. So to all of you teachers out there, I just really want to express my appreciation for your encouragement of your students along these lines. Right, so with that, I'm going to now announce the entries who won the 2022 Congressional App Challenge. And so in 3rd place, we have My Glucose, created by Joshua Tom, Desmond Adams, and Owen Gossage of Eva Mackay. middle school. And I really appreciate very much. Are you here to represent everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, and which one are you?
Joshua Thomas.
Joshua, nice to meet you, Joshua. So congratulations, third place. And we have a very nice certificate for you here.
Thank you.
And I think we're gonna watch your app, right? And are you gonna tell us a little bit about it? Yeah, okay. Okay.
According to the NIH, patients with diabetes are 20% more likely to require an amputation.
One of the main reasons why amputations are such a prevalent threat in diabetic patients is because of their tendency to easily bruise.
Also, did you know that most people don't even know when their bruises have spread or if they really become septic? Hey, I'm Owen.
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Desmond.
Present to you my glucose.
Our main audience are patients with diabetes. However, anybody who suffers from a medical condition that causes one to easily bruise can also benefit from our app.
My Glucose is an app built to scan and track a bruise. Our app allows patients to photograph and document their bruises with the document information that the app has supplied them with. They can now get appropriate health care before the need for any amputations or need of bodily harm.
For our app, we used MIT's App Inventor. The website uses JavaScript and block coding. Using MIT's personal image classifier, we were able to code an AI to detect what level of severity a patient's bruise is at.
Now, let's get to how our app works. Getting into the app, first you'll want to tap the Enter button, and you'll be redirected to a page with 3 options: a scanner, a planner, and settings. Let's go to scanner first to see how our bruise tracker actually works. So first thing you want to do is select an image. Let's take an image of my bruise I had a while ago, and this bruise, as you can see, it says it's at its first stage. If you click more info, it comes up with a page that shows an example of a stage 1 bruise and a little bit more in-depth information. The point of our tracker is to allow the patient to be able to scan another bruise and then track it. So let's take another bruise right here. You see this one? It looks a little septic, so it's going to say that there's some level of concern they could have gone septic, and it gives you the option to contact a healthcare provider. Doing this allows you to not only get information from our app, but actually get information from a professional. Our planner allows a patient to type down notes and then review them according to the week. So if we say, let's say we're on Monday, and we want to take a note down to take insulin. So let's write take insulin. Perfect, and then now we can press save. And so it shows that you have a plan on Monday, and if we load it, see, Monday, take insulin. So in the settings, you can put your information and your healthcare provider's information. That way it can contact you or them in case of any emergency. Future, if we have more time, we would like to upgrade our AI and improve user interface. Thank you.
So where did you get the idea from?
Well, my mom suffers from diabetes.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of my family members also suffer from the condition, like my grandma. So me and my team wanted to help make an app to treat that and prevent dangerous stuff from happening to them and prevent anything like amputations and stuff.
Right. So, and that's one of the problems with diabetes, right? If you get bruised, if you have injuries, they can worsen a little bit faster than a normal bruise.
Yeah, and they can't really heal as fast too.
Where did you get your actual kind of medical information from that you were using there?
We were doing some research online and just trying to take notes on whatever we could find from medical websites and yeah.
Yeah. And so what was the challenge that you faced in putting the app together? Like what was the area that you really had to collaborate with your teammates to kind of get through?
I think the hardest part for us was coming up with a planner, because we were just trying to debate on what way would look the best and what would be easiest for the user, and we're also trying to figure out what way to save the time. So when you open up the app, it saves what you put it down earlier.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty fast. Once you get the picture of the bruise, you can move through it pretty fast. But you were also mentioning AI in there, like you were saying that when when you take it to the next levels, you want to amplify the AI side of it, right?
Yeah, we're working on the AI, but due to time constraints, we weren't able to fully develop it to the best of our abilities. And we felt that if we could, in the future, if we could continue to develop it, it would work a lot more smoothly and be a lot more accurate.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations. In second place, Give Back Hawaii, created by Chase Graham of Iolani School. Is Chase here? No? Chase is not here? All right, well, let's give him no Chase, right? Okay. Do we have his app? Okay, let's check it out.
My name is Chase Graham, and the name of my app is Give Back Hawaii. Give Back is a hub for community-driven environmental change, in that it uses fun to change people's behavior by motivating users to minimize their energy consumption and contribute small everyday things to help out the environment for fun rewards. This app is intended for anyone who might be interested in contributing to the environment but struggles to find the motivation or doesn't know where to start. My app is built on React Native and for iOS and Android and uses JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So this first page is just what the user will see when they first log into the app for the first time. So it's a landing page and it directs them to the sign up process, but I'm gonna skip the sign up process because this is just like a demo user. So the first thing that you'll see when you open the app is the home page or your feed. And in here you are presented with a lot of opportunities to like contribute to your environment in a lot of ways. And for example, this one's a 30-day campaign to compete against other users to minimize your energy usage. And this one is to take a quiz to learn about your carbon footprint. So you'll learn about what your impact is on the environment. This one is for a beach cleanup, so you can earn points by participating in these community-driven events. And this is just another article on learning about the impact of supporting local businesses. The second page that you'll see is Insights, and this is really important to the app. It uses your data that from your house that you link to your accounts through the Green Button API. So this way you can learn a lot about how you're improving your energy usage over time. This is real data that I took from my house for the monthly energy usage. And also this state energy consumption is also real and it updates. And then I have energy consumption comparing for a year ago, last month, this month, so it shows you your improvement over time. This next page is the campaign, and this is where you can complete events or like challenges, and it's a great way to earn points. And points are the way that you can earn these rewards. So the way it works is that you earn points for doing all these community-driven events, for completing challenges that lower your energy usage, for scoring high in a campaign. And yeah, so it has a lot of interesting items which are great ways to motivate the user. And then right here is just your profile. It has little statistics, your level, your badges. This is all meant to motivate users, change users' behaviors about how they treat the environment and energy consumption by introducing an element of fun.
That was a good one. So thank you very much, and congratulations to him. And finally, in first place, drum roll and all that. You really meant it, huh? We have Imiloa, created by Cyrena Fortuno and KBN Nelson of Dreamhouse Eva Beach Public Charter School. And Cyrena and KBN, are you here? Okay, come on up.
Aloha, we are Dreamhouse Eva Beach student leaders and Team Imiloa. Imiloa means to explore. Our game allows users to explore and learn about the Hawaiian Islands. As a team, we came together and created this app to represent our home. My name is Cyrena Fortuno and I am the game designer. I coded majority of the levels and drew some of the arts featured throughout the game.
My name is KBN Nelson and I created the featured characters and small details and backdrops.
How often do you see Hawaii represented in the media? Not much, right? As people who grew up in Hawaii, we don't get as much attention in the media as other places do. So as a team, we decided that we as the people who grew up here will create our own space in the media for ages 10 and up to participate in our app.
Our game is about exploring the 8 Hawaiian islands and spreading awareness of the problems Hawaii is going through in the year 2022. Hawaii is underrepresented in media, so as people who grow up here, we wanted to show different parts of the islands that weren't shown.
As we open the app, we are taken to a home screen which gives you the options to either know more about us as a team or press play. Here, we are taken to the map where you as the player will be able to tap any of the 8 Hawaiian islands to complete quests and earn points. Over in Big Island, news has been going around that candy is being drugged. Users are directed to separate the safe from drugged candy. For this minigame, after coding each individual spread and block, players are now able to drag the safe candy and drug to the instructed places. Each quest is related to modern problems, and you, the player, will help the people stop the problems from harming the islands and people. Users have a choice to continue on to the neighboring island or all the way on the other side. Here in Ni'ihau, the island where many don't live, users are given information about the history of Ni'ihau. After being informed, they are given a quest to help the Hawaiian monk seal swim across the rubbish through the ocean. Hawaiian monk seals are reported to be endangered. We hope that when users are finished with this activity, they will gain more knowledge about the animals living in Hawaii and the struggles they go through. The other quests are along the lines of recent news in each Hawaiian island. Examples are invasive animals and plant species, and other big problems such as water pollution. After our users are done playing the game, we hope they gain more knowledge on what the quests are focused on. We are Team Imiloa, and we hope our app has a great impact on the media.
Where did you get the idea for this app?
We got this idea from the fact that our culture isn't really represented properly in the media, and as someone who's really involved with the media, I want my own culture and where I grew up to be more represented.
Who's the target audience for this app?
It's usually for kids who are not really aware of what's going around them or where what people are experiencing. So we want them to know what's going on and how they can help.
Yeah. So it seems to me that this would deliver the information to them in a way that they are using it, right? Where would you take this next? Like, one of the other award winners, they had a thought about where they would go next with this. Does this have another generation, or is this finished?
I feel that it's finished because it's based on stuff that's happening right now, and there could be if we were to participate next year, we could do another one based off the challenges that are happening that year now.
Right.
So I feel this is for just this year. And if these problems are still happening until then yeah, this could be still useful.
Okay, well, thank you so much and congratulations. Good morning, aloha. Let's go ahead and get started. I think it's okay if I'm down here. You can see me in the back and everything. I don't want to be way up there above all of you. Again, good to have all of you here. I'm Congressman Ed Case. I represent the 1st Congressional District of Hawaii, which is the city of Honolulu proper. My district is Makapu'u to Ko'olina to Mililani. Everything else on Oahu and the neighbor islands is Jill Takuda at this point, my new teammate, but we don't care about that. District lines have never meant a whole bunch to the Hawaii Congressional Delegation, so we all work together, coordinate a lot of stuff. I want to introduce my staff who is here with me today. From Washington, D.C., I have Tim Nelson, my Chief of Staff up there. I've also got Kanan Miranda, who is right here. Kanan is your best contact on federal funding because he runs all my appropriations stuff. Deputy Chief of Staff Jackie Conant runs things here in Hawaii for me, and she's the easiest way into my office for anything, so that's who you should go to. Nestor Garcia, my communications director and my former colleague in the U.S., sorry, not the U.S. He did try that once, by the way, but it didn't work out. In the state legislature, and Kira Empting, who is with my office here in Honolulu. And then I have Major Lauren Cooper back there, who is my defense fellow. Every year I have somebody from the military in my year for the year, so that they can get some experience, and I get some good staff. So any of these people are available to help you, and we're all happy to be here with you a little bit. I especially want to welcome my colleagues in state and county government here. All of you, you're very appreciated for being here, especially Speaker Emeritus Say over there, who I've had many battles with over the years. We'll all write about it in our book someday if we remember it all. I want to forget most of it, by the way. Okay, federal funding, critical to our state, billions of dollars per year. What is it all about, and how do we get it? That's the subject of this morning's discussion. I do this once every 2 years because number one, federal funding is critical to our state in many, many areas. But number two, I don't think we do a good enough job of getting it. And so my purpose here is to give you an overview. You will probably leave here with more questions and answers, but that's fine because the last slide is how to get in touch with us on questions and answers. So this is going to be kind of 101. It's a little cluttered. It's a big topic. I'm going to try to summarize it, and then at the end we'll do some questions for a little while, and then we'll leave it to you to kind of chew on it and then follow up with us. And by the way, again, it's a congressional delegation. It's a 4-person team. We all coordinate with each other especially on the appropriations site. And we're really, really well equipped from this perspective because especially both Senator Schatz and I are on our corresponding appropriations committees. This is a quick breakdown of total federal spending so that you can kind of see that a little bit more directly. Mandatory up here at about 71% in this particular fiscal year. Discretionary is over here. And we will get to this, but of our discretionary spending, you can see that roughly a half is defense related in some way or another, and roughly a half is everything else. Also interest, which is starting to overwhelm our federal budgets because we're borrowing so much, and we have to pay interest. We have to pay interest on those borrowings. So like any business, any government, any personal thing, if you've got too much debt, too much interest, it starts to overwhelm your finances. But we can never forget about interest. This is a little too tight, but it basically says interest matters. If you take a look at interest costs relative to spending on other programs, you can see that net interest down here is starting to outpace many, many of our programs in terms of federal spending. Thus the concern about debt and deficits in the debate in Washington right now. This is a little bit more about debt. I just want to make sure that we all understand that federal finances are not something that are just automatic and go on and you don't have to worry about them. This is our debt, aggregate debt over time. This is 2022. This is World War II. And you can see that we're just on an upward spiral right now. We've kind of lost control of it in some ways. Now, in fairness, a lot of this was COVID, because all of the COVID monies that you're dealing with at the state and county government levels and otherwise right now, almost all of that was borrowed. In fact, all of it was borrowed. It was not financed out of normal revenues. It was a one-time emergency borrowing to the tune of about $6 trillion. So if you want to think about debt, back here just a couple of years ago, it was at somewhere around 20 trillion, 21, 22 when I got into Congress just 4 years ago. And then we had some very, very difficult years of COVID, and we borrowed somewhere in the range of $6 to $7 trillion. So that has accelerated. This kind of describes the process. This is January and February using FY 2024. So I'm working on FY 2024 right now. We're already almost POW with February. Note that I've been working on FY 2024 for about 6 to 9 months already. We're way ahead of this game, even though we didn't pass FY 2023 until the end of December. In our office, we were already working on FY 2024 because if you don't do that, you're going to get overwhelmed at the end. President has his proposal to Congress, which is not mandatory. He sends it over, but it's just kind of, that's what he wants to do. This is an important deadline, so please note this right now, March 17th. Deadline for appropriations requests to my office. March 17th. And that's to give me time to process before my own deadline, which is not yet set, but it's going to be somewhere around early April. So I need to be very conscious of this time frame right here. This is very intense time for my office, right in here, because every year we have, we submit appropriations requests in 12 separate bills. We usually put in about 50 to 75 requests per bill. We have to vet every single one of them. We have to make sure that it's tight. It's my credibility on the line with the Appropriations Committee, and that's how I'm able to get my work done. April 15th is a congressional budget resolution deadline. I don't know whether we're going to do that this year, so that's aspirational. Somewhere around May, my committee starts up in earnest, and it starts to crunch bills out in markup, which means we sit in a room for days for each of these subcommittees, and then we do it again for the full committee for each of those subcommittee bills. And we go through amendments, we go through a discussion, so that we can bring them to the floor of the House somewhere around June. That's our target. By the way, the Senate has to do everything too, because we can't just do it on our own. We have to agree with the Senate, and we're aiming for a September deadline, right? September 30th. So hopefully by July, we're in conference with the Senate, and we pass everything by September. But if we don't pass it, it slides, and this is when the bills passed last year. So we've got, in my mind, I have 7 months until September 30th, but I really only have 2 to 3 months to really have most of my influence on this process. Okay, CPFs, these are our modern day earmarks. We don't call them earmarks because earmark is a bad word, but they are earmarks. They are directed funding from me, from our Appropriations Committee, for a specific project, and they're highly limited. We just tiptoed into these waters again 2 years ago. I get, at the last rules, I get 15 of these a year, total of 15. Limited funding, I can't go out and ask for $1 billion for earmarks. So I can't, build the new saddle road over on the Big Island, which is now the Daniel K. Inouye Highway. But I've been able to have some really, really, nice results that are trying to fill a gap that is just not getting handled by any other federal, state, or county, or independent funding for that matter. Or sometimes you just want to cut through and just get something done right away. So I actually had, and this is actually true of Senator Schatz and Senator Hirono as well, and this is a matter of us coordinating with each other, but I actually had one of the highest rates of success with CPF funding of anybody in Congress. And that happened because we were very tailored on it, and because we worked with you very hard to get every single result or request exactly right, so it was credible, so that it could be accepted, so there was no question. I have to personally sign for the veracity of any CPF request. But again, some of the bottom lines, please visit my website to submit appropriations requests, get the information. Also, I run a regular e-newsletter, so please sign up for my e-newsletter. Contact us for specific help. We have done that repeatedly over the last 4 years, and we're going to continue. It's been very, very helpful to have a solid partnership with people back home, because again, I can't do this alone, and you can do it alone, but it really helps to help you. And then follow funding updates and guidance as it comes in from the feds. How to reach me, again, this is of my website. DC office, if you're in DC, come and see us. Honolulu office, I spend, a third of my time home. So I can usually come and visit you personally, or you can come and visit me, or you can visit me in DC. But, we can do everything remotely nowadays, email, website. Questions dealing with Hawaii specifically, Jackie Conant, Deputy Chief of Staff, is the easiest way into my office. And then for appropriations and general funding questions, Kanan here is my go-to. That's it.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another short episode of What's the Scoops. We are very honored today. We are joined by one of Hawaii's Congressman Ed Case, who represents the 1st Congressional District. And I just thought it'd be cool. He was here talking for 1st Congressional District, right? So it encompasses...
We are in the 1st Congressional District,
Yeah.
right here in Kapolei, yeah,
And it
absolutely.
encompasses Honolulu, Kapolei...
I go Makapu'u Point to Kapolei and up to Mililani, Amos Wahiawa, 750,000 people,
Wow.
including
okay.
all of Kapolei. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a big district. But anyway, we're very happy that he joined us, and I asked him last minute to do this, just to give us some updates on what's happening in your district. What are some of the things you're working on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me out here. You know, I've been in town for just a week. I got to go back to DC and on Sunday. And so when I come home like this, it's time to get out and about. I don't like sitting in my office downtown Honolulu. So I'm coming to your place, right? And I like it. I like it that way. For me, it's about, you know, we're starting a new Congress. Congress goes every 2 years. And I was just reelected to another 2-year term. So we're early on in this Congress, but things are going along really, really fast. I'm starting my 5th full term in Congress, so you know I'm getting up there. And for me, it's about getting everything organized for the Congress, because every time you start a Congress, you have to start a lot of things afresh. Obviously, you're still doing the same things, but so getting your committee assignments straight. I'm on appropriations still, which is the money committee.
Yes.
I specifically sought and was assigned again to natural resources, which aside from taking care of our natural resources, has jurisdiction over Native Hawaiians at the national level. So we work with all of the indigenous peoples there. I'm on the subcommittee of natural resources that deals with all of the indigenous peoples community. So I think I'm really well positioned to continue a lot of the work for Native Hawaiians.
Awesome. Congressman, what are like some of the hot topics, things that you'll be working on or focused on this upcoming session?
Well, I mean, the big picture hot topics, like, you know, that affect us all are, you know, international issues, Russia and Ukraine,
Right.
China. These are major issues in our world. And, you know, whether we're in, you know, Nebraska or, you know, Japan or Kapolei, we're all affected by the outcome of those issues. You know, what is our relationship going to be with China over the coming years? What is the outcome of the very tragic war in Ukraine going to be, and how does that impact our world? And it does impact us here in Hawaii. You know, we can be 5,000 miles away from DC right now. And by the way, we're also 5,000 miles away from Beijing.
Right.
So we're pretty close over there.
But
But here in Hawaii, we have a very active part of our national defense posture, and I believe that we should try to help our country in that, but on a responsible basis. So that leads me to the number 2 issue, which is obviously Red Hill, which has been a real breakdown in our military's stewardship of our lands, and needs continued attention and funding. So that's a huge issue for me. Some of the other huge national issues, you know, our federal finances are not looking too good right now, so we're going to argue over debt. Immigration policy is broken in our country. I don't think we're doing that right. I could kind of go down a list of our social safety net is stretched, Social Security and Medicare, which are really key programs for us throughout the country, and to include Hawaii, are at the breaking point, and we need to fix them to save them. So these are things on my mind nationally. So I guess what I think about always is the way I think about my job is I've got my national issues, right, that are part of me being one member of Congress. And my responsibilities to our country under our Constitution to make those decisions. I've talked about some of those. And then the second part of my job is how do I help Hawaii in Washington with our federal government? That's like appropriations, funding, that's, you know, laws, regulations, any number of things. Like, how do I make sure that our federal government is helping whatever we need in Hawaii, whether it's Red Hill, whether it's protecting our natural resources. Native Hawaiians is obviously a huge part of that, kuleana. And then the third area is how do I help my individual constituents? Because each of my 750,000 constituents has some interaction with our federal government, taxes, Social Security, veterans, immigration. And sometimes, you know, our federal government is just not responsive or does the wrong thing. And so I am the, representative of them to the federal government, make sure they're treated well.
Yeah. So, cost of living in Hawaii, I mean, actually, it's across the United States. Inflation has taken its toll. Like, what are some of the things that Congress is going to address as it relates to inflation or just like the cost to live? I mean, so many of our families have moved away from Hawaii, and so like, how does that weighing in on Congress, and what are some of the things that you're thinking about?
Well, think about it a little bit like the buckets I just outlined. Like there's some things that Congress has done and needs to do that will deal with the cost of living, inflation, healthcare costs, other really drivers of that inflation at a national level. So it's a national issue. I mean, inflation is hitting you whether you live in New Hampshire or Alaska or wherever else. And then there's some very specific issues to Hawaii. On the national level, I think, what really happened with inflation was that we put a lot of money out there to help people during COVID. And then when we came out of COVID, people started spending that at the same time that people were not supply chains had been disrupted. And so it was like a perfect storm that led to inflation. And you just got to dig out of it very slowly. So the main thing to do is okay, what are the drivers of inflation? Now let's reverse those drivers, like get the overall supply of capital out there in balance with needs, free up the supply chains, and then work on inflation through interest rates, which is what we're doing right now. We are seeing the inflation coming down. That's no comfort. I mean, things are still out of control, but we're a lot better than we were 6 months ago. And that's one of the lessons of inflation is once you have it, it's really, really hard to get it under control again. We've gone after very specific areas of inflation, like healthcare, for example, the cost of prescription drugs to our seniors, the cost of getting healthcare in general. We passed some really major legislation at the end of last Congress to finally rein in the cost of healthcare much more and help people out. So those are national issues. And then in terms of Hawaii itself, we all know that we have many, many high cost drivers in Hawaii, but one of the most critical one is just housing, where we have one of the highest housing costs in the country. And so how can I get the federal government to create and plus up the programs that provide for more affordable housing? We're not going to be able to be like a lot of other parts of our country in terms of housing. I mean, if you're in Houston, Texas, you can grow out as far as the borders of Oklahoma and the other states, and you can just spread and spread. We don't have that option here, and so we're going to have always a dynamic that makes it a lot harder for us to provide for affordable housing. But can we, through federal and state programs and laws and regulations like zoning laws that say what you can build and where, can we at least provide for a mix of housing so everybody can find their niche and afford what they can? And so those are federal affordable housing programs. But to be honest with you, this is an area where I need to work with my state and county partners because I don't think we've been doing a good enough job at that level to make sure that when we allow, for example, a developer in Kaka'ako to build a high-rise, like it's got to be really an affordable part of that high-rise as opposed to just kind of, getting around the rules somehow. So we've got a lot of
that's true.
mistakes and some opportunities too.
Okay, so maybe a more fun question. I mean, hopefully it's fun. Where are you at on cannabis? Like, is there any hope to legalize marijuana? I'm not favorable. I'm not saying my personal.
Yeah.
But where are you at on that issue? I think our Hawaiians want to know.
where I enter into this question is that the federal government still classifies cannabis as a Schedule I drug, which means it's subject to stricter penalties. And what it also means is that a whole range of federal laws make it very difficult to for states that choose to legalize cannabis to actually do it, especially on the finance side. So my fundamental belief is that each state at this point, they should be able to make up their minds. I mean, if Colorado wants to go full on, and Oregon and California and Hawaii for that matter,
that's the decision of the state legislature and the people here. It's not something that, I feel strongly about. But if, and as we do, and we already have medical marijuana, of course, here, we ought to be able to really do it. So if you're growing and dispensing, and you have a business in medical marijuana, you shouldn't have to put all of your revenues in a cash bag and take it around. Like you can't even use the normal banking system. So what I think, and what I've already done in Congress is to say, take it off that schedule, so that when states make their decisions on this, they can really implement those decisions fully.
Okay.
I don't know, was that a fun question?
I think we
Fun
gotta
answer?
dissect it a little bit. Yeah, no, I think it was good. So basically, you're saying states should figure that out, not the federal government should.
No, I don't think I think states should figure it out. I think it's I don't think there's a easy answer to it. So I'm not a like, hey, this is absolutely the right or the wrong thing to do, like a lot of people. I think there's room for states to make that conclusion. But I think we are going in the right direction. I think that a really harsh marijuana drug law in any state is probably not the right idea.
Because technically, the states right now are all, a lot of them anyway, are violating federal law by legalizing it.
They're not violating. Well, that's an argument that's sometimes used. I don't think that they are technically violating law by legalizing it, but I do think that the fact that cannabis is still on the Schedule I drug list effectively makes it impossible for states to carry it out. So I guess indirectly, federal law is making it hard to do.
Okay, maybe a different fun question then. What do you do in your free time? Do you get to jog around in DC or?
Well, I do a couple of things. I mean, I think, well, first of all, I'm in the stage where I have grandchildren now.
Nice, fun.
And I've got a 4-year-old granddaughter and a 1-year-old granddaughter, and you know what? They really love me.
Oh.
Unconditionally. It's really, really nice, and I feel really good when I'm with them, and I spend as much time as I can with them, and I'm starting to get some pretty tough questions from the 4-year-old. So but talking about being a grandparent, it's everything that it's made out to be. You get to give them back when you're tired of them, or if they're out of control, or you just want some alone time. And the rules in our house is to the parents is, well, you send them over here, so the rules are our rules. So if you don't like it, you can take them back. So that's one thing. And then I do try to get out as much as I can, into nature, because that's rejuvenating for me. So try to hike. I sail. I've got a Hobie cat that I sail on Kaneohe Bay, and I race when I can.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So
wow, that's something.
I like to travel. Well, I don't get to travel too much, but I when I can, I can. I just got back actually from my first real vacation in years. My wife and I just on our own, we went to the Azores, which is
it's beautiful. Where did you go? Like Ponta Delgado?
Ponta Delgado, São Miguel, and of course this is really important to the heritage of our state. 25,000 Portuguese immigrants came here.
The fun fact is, we went traveling while we were there. They have taro patches. Did you see that?
I was amazed by that.
Yeah.
Like I was shocked. I even took pictures and posted them up, and because I looked at the field and I went, hey, wait a minute, that's taro.
Yeah.
What's that doing here? And they said, yeah, it's part of our staple. And it turns out, to get into the weeds on this, so to speak, it's a different variety of taro. It's the African taro as opposed to the Malaysian taro, which is really our taro if you track it back far enough. But the African taro came up from Africa when the Portuguese were down there exploring, and they brought it back. And so I was like, all these taro fields, and we ate the taro, and they do it really interesting. They do a stew. I don't know if you had the stew, but they cook the stew with chicken. It's lunchtime, so I'm getting hungry just talking about it. But they put the taro in there, and it's kind of similar to an imu, same idea. They cook it in the volcanic vents, by the way. it's steam cooked.
I didn't know that.
Like volcanic steam is coming up, like, you know, Hawaii Island, and they have their pots, they put it down in the vent, and it cooks for about 7 hours, and you take it out and whack it.
I just gotta go back. You know what I couldn't find over there was a malasada. I couldn't find.
Oh, I
anything.
found the
Oh,
malasada.
you found the malasada.
Yeah, I found
Okay.
because I said to the person that was taking us around, I said, oh, well, we have malasadas, and he goes, oh, you want malasadas? So we actually went to a local bakery and got them. They're not the same as here.
Oh, they're not.
The taste is the same, but they're kind of flat and more. They're not quite as puffy as here. So
Not like Leonard's.
not in shape, but you can taste it a little bit. But they do something different that Leonard's doesn't do. They put I forget what their secret ingredients are. They put a little bit of rum in it, and there's something else that I cannot remember. It's like, you know, like a vanilla extract or something like that.
Interesting.
And so we're like, wait a minute, we don't think we do that in Hawaii. So we looked it up, and the Leonard's doesn't do that.
Oh, interesting.
So we're gonna have to check it out and
Yeah,
tell them,
check it
hey, you
out.
guys are deviating too much from your cultural history.
Yeah, there's a lot of Portuguese. I'm one of them. That's why I went over there. I wanted
Some
to
of
see
my-
what.
My children are, 2 of my 4 children are Portuguese, Hawaiian, Korean,
Yeah.
Caucasian.
Yeah, it's an interesting history. Kalakaua had an expedition that went over there. And anyway, really quickly before we wrap this up, when we were in the Azores, we went to go rent ATVs. We wanted to go check out the thing. And so at the counter, the guy looks at our IDs, our driver license. He goes, "Oh, you're from Hawaii?" He goes, "My grandma's Hawaiian." Yeah, so so he's Hawaiian. Anyway, so
Really?
the connection between those.
How did that happen?
I guess they moved over. I mean, the grandmother. So there's Hawaiians that live over there, just like there's Portuguese live over here. So the relationship is actually really, really
Well,
good.
how would the Hawaiians have, why would they, I guess maybe the Portuguese came over, met them, and then they went home or something like that? I mean,
Or yeah, maybe they came over here
Yeah.
to work,
Yeah.
and then they ended up taking home the women. I
yeah,
don't know.
I don't know, could be. I didn't find any of the Hawaiians there, I'm sorry
Yeah,
to
no,
say.
you gotta
I
go-
found plenty of Portuguese.
You gotta go rent ATV. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. I thought
Yeah,
that
if I
was-
can just put in a word to
Yeah.
everybody out there, mahalo for joining us today, and my website, if I can do that, is case.house.gov for any information on what I'm up to in Congress and for anything we can help anybody with.